right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here this evening. I'd like to call the meeting of the Brooklyn City Council to order. Mary Jo, can you please call the roll?
Kathy Pucci.
Here.
Mary Bellbeer.
Present.
Kevin Tansky.
Here.
Art Politsky.
Here.
Meg Ryan Shockey.
Here.
Ryan Van Kirk.
Here.
Andy Sellards.
Here. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have some minutes to approve this evening, and they are the minutes from the meeting dated January 22nd, 2018. Does anyone have any comments or questions?
Motion approved. Second.
To approve, Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Art Politsky.
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shockey.
Yes.
Ryan Van Kirk.
Yes.
Andy Sellards.
Yes.
At the start of this evening's meeting, Mrs. Pucci would like to speak about the safe routes to school, so at this time I will turn it over to her.
Thank you. First, there is a sign-in sheet going around, so if you could please make sure you sign it before you leave. Safe Routes to School is a federal, state, and local effort to enable and encourage children to walk and bicycle to school and to make walking and bicycling to school safe and appealing. The goal of Ohio's Safe Routes to School program is to assist communities in developing and implementing projects and programs that encourage and enable children in grades K through 8, including those with disabilities, to walk or bike to school safely. This program is administered by ODOT, funding is reimbursable, and may be awarded at 100%. In 2009, we formed a Safe Routes to School coalition with the Brooklyn City Schools and the Cuyahoga County Board of Health. We applied for, received a planning grant, and then spent a year and a half analyzing the then current walking and biking climate for students at Brookridge and Brooklyn Middle School. Based on parent and community input, along with recommendations from a traffic engineer, the Safe Routes to School Coalition created a long-term action plan to address concerns and make improvements. ODOT accepted our travel plan without any revisions or additions. We have received non-infrastructure funding each year for the education, encouragement, enforcement, and evaluation activities, which currently include the annual bike rodeo and touch-a-truck event, Walk to School Week, Bike to School Month, and the 5K Run and Family Fun Walk that is associated with our Fall Fest. Previous grants also allowed us to reintroduce our police bicycle patrol, providing the funds for the equipment, training, and for a short time, the payroll for the bike patrol for periods in the beginning and end of the school year. Previous grants also paid for new coats and equipment for our crossing guards. Non-infrastructure grants are administered by the Brooklyn City Schools. Infrastructure grants are required to be administered by the city. In 2012, we did apply for and receive funding of $174,000. Unfortunately, we had to eventually reject the grant because the schools had developed a plan to relocate the students that were then at Brookridge. We then had to wait until students were in the new facility for 2 school years and also revise our school travel plan based on the new location. We've been working with the Cuyahoga County Board of Health and ODOT to revise our school travel plan, which was submitted last week, and we are preparing to submit for another infrastructure grant. The list of items we're going to be requesting for this grant are, on the main campus of the school, restripe and repaint crosswalks with a ladder design, emergency zones, islands, and pavement arrows within pickup and drop-off area zones, and add signage directing drop-off and pickup location and directions. At all school entrances, add signage and pavement markings to make drivers aware of where they need to stop. At Ridge Road and West 66 and Hurricane Alley, install pedestrian crossing beacon, which is at the library in Hurricane Alley on Ridge. Bidoff Road at Williamston and Heather, install pedestrian crossing beacon and repaint the crosswalks. Southwood Drive, Burwell Avenue, Bidoff Road, North Amber, and Ridge Road, install school zone beacons. At Southwood Drive entrance to the schools, install bollard path lighting along that entrance. Hurricane Alley between Rodone and Ridge Road. Reconstruct a sidewalk along Hurricane Alley to create a shared pathway and allow for east-west bicycle route. At various locations, periodically deploy radar sign beacon to increase awareness of school zone. The total estimated cost for these improvements is as follows. The estimated construction cost is $305,931.50. Construction contingencies, $30,568.50. So the total estimated construction, $336,500. Survey and design, which is 10%, $30,600. Construction engineering, which is also 10%, $30,600. And $1,000 for legal advertising. So the total we will be requesting is estimated at $398,700. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much. And again, if you would sign in your name and address on the sheet that's going around, we'd appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Pucci, and thank you for your work with Safe Routes to School. Would it be possible, if you could get a chance, could you send us a copy of those plans for the Safe Routes to School?
Yes, we're going to be applying for the grant now.
Awesome.
So yes.
Thank you very much. On Tuesday, March 6th at 6 p.m., Council and the school board will meet once again to discuss the future of Hurricane Alley and the property attached to it. We have a proposal from a landscape architect company, Benke, that is offering the following services. Their proposed scope of work, they would begin an inventory and analysis of the current site landscape. With this data and the input from the working group of the school board and city council, they'll provide a minimum of 3 concept plans. Each concept will explore spaces that will offer multiple uses for all users. The design will carefully have a careful considered layout of the athletic fields, location of Hurricane Alley, maximizing parking, safety, maintenance, and access management of the space. Once a concept is selected, a final master plan will be presented with anticipated cost. The project scope obviously will ultimately be determined by City Council and, of course, Brooklyn City Schools along with the administration. For the scope of the work listed above, Benke is going to provide the following services. Number 1 will be conceptual plans. Number 2, a final rendered site plan. Number 3, Benke Associates will attend all the meetings as needed to complete the project. Then lastly will be a cost estimation. At this next meeting that the combined group is going to be having on March the 6th, we'll discuss their proposal, any changes to the scope of work that we would deem necessary, and any subsequent future steps. This meeting, of course, is open to the public and all are welcome to attend. And again, that will take place on Tuesday, March the 6th at 6 p.m. At this time, we will have the public session. If anyone in the audience has anything to say for the good and well for the city of Brooklyn, please step forward, state your name and address, and you'll be recognized. Please remember to keep your comments to 5 minutes or fewer.
Good evening, my name is Earl Bloom, 4720 Forest Edge Drive. I'm here tonight to make everyone aware that next weekend is a big event in the city of Brooklyn. The students of Brooklyn School will be presenting their annual theatrical production, Beauty and the Beast. Based on past yearly performances of various theatricals, I'm sure that this will be a very enjoyable program, and I encourage everyone to attend. The first performance will be on March 8th, Thursday at 7 o'clock, one on March 9th, Friday at 7 o'clock, and on Saturday they will be having 2 performances, 2 o'clock and 7 o'clock. In past years, this effort by the students has involved more than 100 of the students, not only on the stage, but in the orchestra and backstage and supporting it. This is a very important effort by our students, and I encourage everyone to support our children and to support our school, and please attend one of these events. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, excuse me, good evening everyone. Victor Ardito, 7439 Outlook Avenue. A couple things. This is sort of off the path, but if anybody has an iPhone, and if you don't have an iPhone 8 or newer, do not do the latest download because you will not be happy. It takes my phone over 2 seconds to 5 seconds to fix on taking a picture anymore. It's just a blur. Another stick, you were talking about the street sign, when they're painting the street and that. When they throw that stuff down, it's like glitter or whatever. You know, if you can ask those guys to cut down, if you're on a motorcycle or it's heavy enough for the car, you're slip sliding away. And the same when they get carried away with the tar strips, especially on a warm day. Another street I'm going to mention for the umpteenth time, South Amber. It's starting to look like the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Part of it looks like it's gravel, and they're doing another repair section in concrete. Can they speed this thing up a little? Granted, there's not a lot of houses, but if you're going down it, it's horrible. Thank you.
I think I had one of my senior moments. I forgot to mention that the theatrical production is Beauty and the Beast. Sorry about that.
You did mention it, but that's okay.
Did I?
You did.
I had a senior moment.
There you go. It's okay to hear it again. Thank you, sir. Anyone else have anything to say? All right, very good. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll now move on with reports of committees, commissions, and boards, and we begin this evening with the Recreation Board, Mr. Tansky.
Thank you, Mr. Van Kirk. American Red Cross lifeguard training will be held at the Brooklyn Rec Center and will take place on March 4th, 11th, 18th, and 25th, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. The cost to Brooklyn residents is $180, and for non-residents is $190. Anyone interested in taking these classes must be at least 15 years old by the last class. Registration is online at www.activityreg.com. Attendance is mandatory for all class sessions and does not guarantee employment. If you have any questions, please contact Ashley at abutler@brooklynohio.gov. Private swimming lessons for ages 5 and up are available at the rec center. The cost for 3.5-hour classes, a resident, $60, Parma and Parma Heights, $67.50, non-resident, $75. Must have a valid ID card to get resident or Parma rates. Please contact Ashley at abutler@brooklynohio.gov for info. Learn to Swim group classes will take place on Monday and Wednesday nights, March 5th through March 2nd. There will be a parent and tot classes and preschool classes. The cost is $50 for residents, $57.50 for Parma and Parma Heights, $65 for non-residents. Swim team will take place on Monday and Wednesday nights from 7:30 p.m. till 8:30 p.m. March 5th through May 2nd. The cost for residents is $65 for Parma or Parma Heights, $77.50 for non-residents, and non-residents $90. The City of Brooklyn 2018 Youth Soccer ages 3 to 14 years old will start April 6th through May 19th. Registration is through March 6th. Cost is $60 for residents and $65 for non-residents. If you have any questions regarding the Brooklyn Youth Soccer Program, please contact Jen O'Banion, Program Coordinator at 216-635-4274. Or for any other questions, contact the Rec Center at 216-351-5334. The next Recreation Board meeting will be held on Monday, March 19th, in the Rec Center meeting room at 7 p.m. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Tansky. The next Planning Commission meeting will meet on Thursday, March the 1st at 6 p.m. to hear the following items. A request from Copperstone Catering for a portable electric changeable sign at 4630 Ridge Road. And secondly, a request from Mark Hayes for a freestanding sign for Hayes Equipment at 3600 Ridge Road. Both of these items were deferred from the February meeting. At this time, we'll move on to the School Board Liaison, Mrs. Splitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Van Kirk. At the last school board meeting, Ryan Kelber gave us information on student achievements for the school year. Andrew Zarins recorded his 100th career wrestling win in December and joins an elite group of Brooklyn Wrestling. Andrew was a state qualifier last year and competed in sectionals this past weekend. He was third runner-up. Seth Majewski and Carl Ramser also took third place. Jeff Rosen took first place in the 106-pound division. Alex Gakwa took third place in the 182nd pound division. Jelly Benz recorded her 1,000-point win in a win over Max Hayes last month. On February 17, 2018, Jelly scored 27 points in a win over Black River. She hopes to continue her basketball career after high school. The varsity hockey team went 11-1 in league play to win their second consecutive Greater Cleveland High School Hockey Blue South Division Award. They ended the year with an 18-5 record, and in the last 2 years combined went 40-9. Marcelo Caroselli and Eric Prusak have both qualified for district bowling tournaments on February 24th and 25th. Each finished in the top 4 of their respective divisions. Boys basketball played Black River on senior night, February 20th. Girls basketball had their sectional game on February 21st against Beechwood High. Boys basketball will play St. Martin de Porres tomorrow night at 7 p.m. in Brooklyn. Baseball and softball have officially begun, and track will begin on March 5th. Thanks to the efforts of our state representative, Martin Sweeney, Dr. Glykoff recently met with the full Finance Committee in Columbus to present our argument for fair funding of our schools. We are not an affluent community and are one of 26 other districts in the state with this predicament. Per student, we receive $729. Non-public schools receive $1,209. That is a $480 per student difference. Maybe this time Columbus will listen. A critical renewal issue will be on the May 8th ballot. It is a 2.2 mil renewal levy. No more money out of your tax dollars. And is 13% of our budget. Our children are our future, and property values are a direct result of good school systems. The tragedy in Florida a few days before this meeting brought safety issues to the floor again. Some ideas were information from students, parents, and others. Not fail-safe, but school will investigate all potential threats. Need for a more cohesive safety measures, police, well-trained staff, state-level talks. To pursue grants for training. I will update you as these ideas are put into action. And now the events. Night at the Races will be March 3rd from 5:30 to 11. And Beauty and the Beast, as Mr. Blum said, March 8th, 9th, and 10th. The board president, Rocky Neal, thanked Brooklyn City Council for their collaborative efforts on the strategic planning initiative for our schools and Hurricane Alley development. And that ends my lengthy report.
Thank you, Ms. Splitsky. Next up is the Sustainability Advisory Committee, Mr. Tansky.
Thank you. The Sustainability meeting was held on February 21st. Discussed was Ordinance 2017-18, which was deferred by Council, authorizing the mayor to enter into a ground lease with Enerlogic Solar LLC for the development, design, installation, and operation of a solar-powered electric generation facility on a portion of the land located at 9400 Memphis Avenue. Law Director Mr. Butler went in depth and discussed the ordinance. Committee members had questions and comments that Mr. Butler will research and update the committee at a future meeting. Ordinance 2017-18 needs to be held in abeyance until more information has been obtained from our Law Director, Mr. Butler, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Tansky. The Finance Committee did meet this evening just prior to our council meeting at 6:30, and I will go over the items that are up for third reading and adoption and also the new items on the agenda for this evening. The first of which is up for third reading and adoption is Ordinance 2018-3. This is the establishment of the full-time clerk of council, and this ordinance is in accordance with the charter changes that were voted on by the residents in the last election. The clerk of council position will be appointed by the finance director, and council can vote to object to the appointment if they so choose. The salary range for this position will be between $18.273 and $26 per hour. This ordinance was amended on the floor at the last meeting and is up for third reading and adoption this evening. New to the agenda this evening is ordinance 2018-24, and the administration is asking for this to be passed by suspension of the rules. This is authorizing the mayor to enter an agreement with the civil and environmental consultants to provide consulting and other services for the 2018 for the sanitary landfill, not to exceed $43,800. And CEC is our consultant for the landfill, and this is in accordance with the Ohio EPA. There are several things that we have to do to be compliant, and this is one of them. The CEC will then prepare the 2017 annual report. They'll complete the required field and reporting activities associated with the April and October 2018 semi-annual groundwater sampling events. They will also coordinate field activities that are associated with the monthly National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System monitoring events and complete the required electronic discharge monitoring events. So this is an ongoing thing that we have to do every single year up the landfill. We do have funds set aside in the landfill account for this, and that is for $43,800. Next is 2018-25, and this is also being passed by emergency this evening. This is amending Section 2 of Ordinance 2012-85 as previously amended, titled Establishing Petty Cash Funds for Various Departments in the City of Brooklyn. And this change will allow for an increase in $100 in the change till for the mayor's court. Currently, they only have $100 in that till, and this adds $100 to that. We've seen increased volume down there, so they simply just need more cash to make change for the items that are paid for at the mayor's court. 2018-26 is also going to be passed by emergency this evening. This is authorizing the community cost sharing agreement with the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District for illicit discharge corrections project. This has to do with the work that's being done over on Torrance and Orchard. There were several connections over there that were bad, where we had discharge that was going into the storm drain as opposed to the sewer. And any repairs that are done on the street are the city's responsibility. And those total costs are $120,880. This ordinance will allow us to apply for the cost sharing monies that are set aside with Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, and it will end up not costing the cities anything. Anything will be reimbursed for those charges. Ordinance 2018-28 and 29 are both sister ordinances dealing with the Municipal Foreman and Laborers Union Local 1099 contracts. The first of which is for 2017, and just like the rest of the contracts that were passed, the service workers have agreed to a 0% wage increase for 2017. And then 2018-29 deals with years 2018 to 2020. There were several changes that were made to their contracts, and so I'll read those into the records at this time. Under Article 12, Section 7, the city has extended the recall rights of laid-off employees from 18 months to 24 months. Currently, there are no persons that would benefit from this change, and the city has no plans for layoffs, so the consent was requested, or the request was consented to. Article 16, Section 2, the city has agreed to make the uniform allowances the same across the entire union. Previously, just 2 1099 employees received lesser allowances. We were compelled for fairness to make the allowance the same throughout union membership for a minimal cost to the city. Article 29, Appendix A, in keeping with the pattern first established by police personnel, then jailers, fire, and ASME, service employees have agreed to a 1.75% wage increase for 2018, 2% for 2019, 2% for 2020. That mirrors all the rest of the contracts that have already been approved and adopted. Article 35, Section 6, the city has agreed to extend from 45 days to 90 days the notice period before which the city may privatize trash collection. The city has no plans to do so and found this request uncontroversial. And lastly, the union has agreed not to contest the city's decision not to fill the senior center bus driver position with a full-time employee when the current employee retires, which may be within the period of this contract. The intention was to provide flexibility and save some money by having all or a portion of the work of a senior center driver done by a part-time or outside employee or contractors at that time. And so those are the changes that were made in those contracts. We do anticipate going into executive session this evening to ask any last questions to Mr. Butler. Once that executive session is over, we'll come back and vote on those ordinances by emergency. Then one final thing, Mr. Verba informed the Finance Committee that they will be purchasing the excavator that was budgeted for in the 2018 budget. The original budget amount was for $74,703. The actual cost is $63,356, so that's a savings of $11,000. And that is it for the Finance Committee report. At this time, we'll have reports of council. We begin this evening with Mrs. Pucci.
Thank you. Good evening. I attended the fundraiser for the schools on Saturday. They have an annual spaghetti dinner, and it was just really nice to see administrators, teachers, staff, and community member volunteers all coming together to benefit the schools. So I appreciate everyone who either volunteered or donated or attended. It was a pretty nice turnout. I think the pre-sale tickets were 188. As Mrs. Politsky mentioned, there is a school levy renewal on the ballot in May. We're having a primary May 8th. This is very critical to the school's budget. Mr. Butler, if you could prepare a resolution of support for this, I'd appreciate it for the next meeting, and I can provide you with some background information. On that same note, just a reminder, if anyone needs to either register to vote or maybe change their address, because they've moved into the community, the deadline to do this is in time for the May primary is April 9th. I too would like to encourage residents to attend the play. It's always an amazing job done by all of our students. We have an extremely high level of talent in our community, especially since we're such a small community. So it's well worth the tickets price. Just a note on Ordinance 2018-26, which is the contract with Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District. These funds actually come from monies that are paid for by our residents. People may recall that the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District implemented a stormwater management program a while back. It was very controversial, and it was adjudicated in court that they were able to institute these fees to handle stormwater management. So part of their plan was to set aside 25% of what is collected in each community for projects in that community. So the monies that we are going to be expending for this project on Orchard and Torrance are actually our cost sharing of what our residents have paid into the Stormwater Management Fund. And finally, Mr. Butler, when you do develop the answers to the questions relating to the solar panels, the solar panel legislation, could you make sure all of council gets those questions and answers? I think that would be very helpful. And that completes my report. Thank you.
Next up is Mrs. Bellevue.
Thank you. For many of us and our families, there is an ongoing problem of paying for prescription drugs that are often continually needed for ongoing physical conditions. We often wonder, why are these drugs so expensive? Well, there was a consumer protection bill introduced in the Ohio House of Representatives last month that aims to increase the transparency in prescription drug pricing. State Representative Scott Lips of Franklin introduced House Bill 479, stating that action is needed to address rising prescription drug prices to protect Ohio consumers. Prescription drug pricing in its supply chain is complex and broke and needs to be scrutinized. The bill would ban the controversial practice of pharmacy clawbacks, when pharmacy benefit managers overinflate the cost of prescription medications at the point of sale and then pocket the money the patient was overcharged. The pharmacy benefit managers are companies that are the middlemen between pharmacies and insurers and have a great say in what is covered and for how much. The bill would also ban pharmacists' gag orders, which contractually prevent a pharmacist from discussing the true cost of a prescription medication with their customers. The whole subject is complicated, but the bottom line is that legislature is starting to respond to the voters regarding huge prescription drug prices that seem so outrageous in many cases. Bills like House Bill 479 are aimed at helping the consumer not be gouged by unnecessary high prescription drug prices. On another note, I would like to highlight two outstanding Brooklyn students who have their artwork was chosen to be displayed in the 2018 Ohio Art Education Association Young People's Art, and they are students Emily Jerry and Colin Schillinger. If you remember, I think maybe it was about 6 weeks ago, Colin was honored here in our own council chambers. He's a wonderful student. He's on his way to St. Ignatius and very, very bright. Well, Emily and Colin have their exhibits represented in this, these exhibits are usually for kids that are in the ages of, kindergarten through 8th grade. Colin's artwork will be on display at the Rhodes State Office Tower, while Emily's work will be displayed at the State Teachers Retirement System. Both places are in Columbus. And I'd like to congratulate both of them. I happened to see their art, and it was both of big tiger faces, but the art was so intricate and beautiful, and it was so wonderful how they were able to capture the eyes on the tigers. So if you happen to see them, congratulate them. It's such an honor to have students such as that in our city. But the terrible thing that happened in Florida, being a parent, I can only imagine what it's like sending your kid to school and thinking, God, are they going to be safe? In my day, when you went to school, you worried about if you did your homework and the nun was going to hit you or whatever. But now these kids have to worry about, are they going to be hurt? And it's such a senseless killing, and it's just terrible. But I would like to ask our Chief Milkey if he has any ideas, if anything, what are we doing to tighten things up? And, if you can explain that a little bit to us, what's going on in our city.
Mrs. Belver, this is anything new. I mean, I don't know if you could ever be properly prepared for an event like that, but you can train, practice, educate not only the officers but the teachers. We have 2 officers on our department that are ALICE instructors that we've offered to the schools to help train their staff and not only our officers. As of Christmas, we even practiced at St. Thomas More for this type of stuff. Changes that we've made since last week, our officers are walking through the schools a little bit more visibility before and after. Special attention. Our SRO obviously is on alert at our high school. The bicycle detail will begin shortly. That'll provide some presence before and after school with officers on bikes. But all I can tell you is that this is always on the forefront of our mind for all our officers. We've got a number of officers that are married to teachers themselves. So we train every year. It's a priority. We practice as much as we can, as often as we can get out there and get the facilities. So I don't know if that's any more comforting, but
it is. Thank you. And lastly, just a quick reminder, this coming up weekend, yes, they have Night at the Races. I heard some of the parents were already preparing this past weekend, getting things ready. I know there's going to be some wonderful raffle baskets. So if you get a chance, come out there. But I do know one thing, the pierogies are going to be good. And that completes my report. Thank you.
Next up is Mr. Tansky.
Yeah, I just got one thing. Councilwoman Kathy Pucci brought up about the questions of the panels, the solar panel sustainability meeting. Mary Jo, do we have those questions reflected in the minutes? Both of those, all those questions reflected in the minutes? Yes. Okay. That's all I have.
Next up is Mrs. Plitsky.
Well, I really have nothing except I bought tickets for the spaghetti dinner. Forgot about them and noticed the tickets yesterday, so unfortunately I missed it. But at least it supported our schools. And Mrs. Belvier, I'm so glad you you talked about House Bill 479 because I have a daughter whose inhaler went up from $50 to about $200 a month. So thank you very much.
All right, next up is Mrs. Ryan Shockey.
As Ms. Politsky said about the dinner and others have mentioned, it was inspiring to see so much support for the Brooklyn schools and the students at the annual dinner this past weekend. After all, the students are our future. And also, as it's been mentioned, there is a school levy renewal on the May 8th ballot, and I think it's so important for schools to keep mentioning this until May 8th. It is not an increase, but the resources that come along with passing this renewal is vital to our schools. And finally, thanks to Chief Paul for showing me around the firehouse last week. I enjoyed learning about the job of our safety forces, seeing their facilities, and meeting one shift of the firefighters. Our city prides itself on excellent safety services, and I appreciate your time for taking me around. He also invited me to come by the station for an extended period of time to do a ride-along and learn even more about what our firefighters do on a daily basis for our residents, and I look forward to scheduling this in the future and encourage my colleagues to do the same. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Selhertz.
Thank you. Most everything's been covered. Just to add on to Ms. Politsky's comments about the hockey team, yes, their season did come to an end last Saturday against St. Ignatius. They lost 11-1. At the end of the first period, it was 1-0 St. Ignatius. Halfway through the second period, it was 2-1. Brooklyn, being a small school, finally kind of got overcome with the size of Ignatius. They ended up losing 11-1. The one kind of surprising thing is the Brooklyn goalie had 63 saves for the game. So there was a lot of shots being taken at the Brooklyn goal. The nice thing this morning was all the students in the kindergarten through grade 3 met in the high school auditorium for one book, one school today. The last book they read last year was Charlotte's Web. This year the book for all the children to read is Winn-Dixie. Each child receives their own copy to take home and read. The school resource officer, Dan Meadows, also received a copy as well as the teachers so that there will be discussions about the book. Staff from the Brooklyn Library is present at the assembly. They arranged to have a meeting with the author via Skype with the students. And there's also should be a big thank you to Rich Square Plaza for sponsoring this event. Also this past Saturday, Officer Meadows, along with 5 teachers, took part in the Cleveland Polar Plunge for the Special Olympics Ohio presented by Sheets. Thank you to all those participated as well, those that donate. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Selhertz. Just one thing I want to add, I've already spoken enough this evening, but about this school shooting, I would just encourage parents, and I'm certainly not an expert. I've been a parent for all of about almost 4 years now with another one on the way. But just communicate with your kids. Know what's going on in their social media. I know that social media is a new thing to even to my generation, the generation before me, and most of the time, at least I'm a teacher at a private school here, and we've had several meetings with our parents about this social media thing where unfortunately this gentleman Cruz down in Florida that did all these killings was pretty much pouring it out there that he was basically going to do this on social media, and seemingly the powers that be really didn't know about it, didn't do anything about it, and so communication is key. And many times that parents just don't know what's going on these social media sites, and it's important that they do know so that we can avoid these tragedies. And I know there's been a lot of heated debate back and forth on this was the problem, but communication is key. And I will echo what the chief said just a second ago about being upping the patrols in our schools. When my history class started the other day, someone came in and was like, "Why is there a police officer in the hallway?" And I said, "I don't know." But it's okay. But they've been coming to our school over there in Brooklyn now. They're going to do a walkthrough once or twice a day, so we're very grateful for that as well. But just, that it starts at the home. And so parents, if you could just help all the other kids out by knowing what's going on. And a lot of times kids aren't going to say something, that they don't want to be the snitch on their friend or whatever, but it really can save lives if we just understand and know what's going on. So it's a tragedy, and hopefully we can move on from it, and God forbid anything like that ever happen in our community. But this time we'll move on with the mayor's report. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Van Kirk. Just a couple things. One, the State of the City is now available on the city's website. I also believe it's airing on the cable stations as well. So if you didn't get a chance to check it out, that's another means. Secondly, RTA was going to increase their rates, and they have delayed this, so I just want to let you know they are trying to do their best to keep the rates down. If I hear that they intend to increase the rates, I will let everyone know. Next, I would like to thank all of the bargaining employees. Now that we're wrapping up with all the negotiations, all the employees do such a wonderful job here with their work. So I just want to publicly thank them for all they do. And I believe that the negotiations went very well this past year. We've had to do it for the past 2 years. It's a tedious process with many of my directors, myself, and the employees who represent the bargaining units. But everybody's very respectful, and that's all you can really ask for your employees when they're sitting across from the table from you. So thank them for that. And I also want to thank the employees who took part with reading with the children last week. I was out of town, so I couldn't participate like I usually do, but a bunch of our police officers, our firefighters, and other city employees went over to read to the children at the Brooklyn City Schools. So I thank them for their participation. I think it's one of the great things about our city, these small things that we get to do, and they get to know our police officers and our firefighters and our community. And that's it.
Thank you, Mayor. Now move on with director's reports. We have just a couple this evening, the first of which is Finance Director, Mr. Schaefer.
Good evening, thank you. I gave a long-winded explanation in the Finance Committee meeting about some of the upcoming legislation as far as formalizing the city's banking services agreement and some of the other services that will come along with that. I'm also happy to report that the projections from RETA were increased since the last time we got a formal projection back in October when we presented the 2018 appropriations. We were planning on collecting $14 million gross collections for 2018, and that has been increased to 15.3 million, which is an increase of 1.3 million. I just received that from Rita last week, so I'm happy to report that, and that completes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Then lastly for the reports is our Service Director, Mr. Verba.
Thank you, Mr. Van Kirk. Just to let the residents of Brooklyn know, maybe some of the newer residents, if you get off 480 east, if you're heading out 480 eastbound, you get off at the Riggs Road exit ramp and you head north, that is still Cleveland up until you get to Delora. We've been getting many calls about the pothole, several of the potholes that are on Riggs Road on the Cleveland side. I've sent crews over there 3 to 4 times to repair them. I've contacted Cleveland, but just to let you know, that is Cleveland. So if you do have a pothole complaint on that, feel free to give them a call. It might expedite them getting out there. Also, just to let the residents know, we had, through dye testing, there was about 7 houses in the Orchard and Torrance area that have illicit discharge. So the county, their subcontractor is Fabrizi. They are out there making the repairs now. There may be some trees that might be affected. If the trees are not taken down by Fabrizi, we're going to add them to the list for the street program, and we'll take them down at that point. But with them working around there, they're exposed to some of the roots and things, so they may not be safe. So we will address that if the county does not. Also, there was a little mix-up. There was, while they were working last week, they hit a water line. They had to make an emergency repair. They tried to notify the residents by knocking on the doors. If you weren't home and you lived in that area between Williamston and Outlet, you didn't know that you didn't have water for a few hours. We've corrected. I've talked to the subcontractor, Fabrizi, and from now on, if that happens, they're going to let me know, and we'll try to formulate a letter and let every resident that's affected know by a letter alarming them that they will not have water. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Verba. One thing I failed to mention earlier in my report was the last meeting we authorized a grant request from the Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District, and that grant was approved, and it's a sponsorship of a shred day. That day will be April 21st at the Recreation Center from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., and it will also provide magnets that will highlight the materials that the city currently recycles. We'll now move on with our legislation for this evening. As I mentioned earlier, when we get to the last 2 ordinances, 28 and 29, we will go into executive session to discuss those, and we'll come back out and vote after that executive session. First up is ordinance 2018-3, and this is up for a 3rd reading and adoption, establishing the full-time position of clerk of council. Does anyone on council have any comments or questions?
Move to adopt.
Second.
To adopt, Kathy Pucci,
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer,
Yes.
Kevin Tansky,
Yes.
Barb Politzky,
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki,
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk,
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
The next ordinances are on second reading. Ordinance 2018-11, authorizing declarations of official intent under U.S. Treasury regulations with respect to reimbursements from proceeds of bonds, notes, or other obligations of temporary advances made for payments prior to issuance and related matters. Ordinance 2018-12, amending various rules of council codified pursuant to section 12101 of the codified ordinances of the city of Brooklyn.
May I be recognized?
Yes.
I would like to amend this ordinance and substitute a moment of silence for prayer. As you know, last meeting that we had here, I expressed my concerns about being on council here and of everybody's of every different religion here being offensive to people that don't run to pray on city council. And I was hoping that maybe we can just have a moment of silence and that would suffice for whatever we really want to pray about in our hearts, and not to really be offensive to any resident here in the city of Brooklyn.
May I be recognized?
Yes.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
I would second that motion.
I got a question. Can that be, the moment of silence, can we add that before or after a prayer so we can add it all in? Is that possible?
Do you want to do both?
Or, maybe or.
Because you're not going to have it.
Because I don't want to be forced to say St. Michael the Archangel up here, you know what I mean? And when it comes my time to pray, or my Catholic prayers, or bless myself, you know, I wouldn't want to be offensive to anyone, you know? I just think a moment of silence engulfs, that way I don't offend, or we do not offend people that, I'm sure there are people up here that are not religious, you know, that we're not offending anybody religious, and you know, is that a possibility that, you know, we could just have a moment of silence? That way, none of our residents or nobody here on council would be offended.
You've made the motion.
Can I get some feedback?
Well, here's the thing, if you have a moment of silence, there's going to be times where you're not going to have somebody here doing prayer, in my opinion. So,
As we've discussed before, I've explained this before how it's going to work.
I don't have a problem adding it in.
We would start off with a letter would be sent to all the churches in the city of Brooklyn. They would be the first ones. And then on a rotating basis, each council member would have the opportunity to invite someone to come in to pray for council.
But
If
may I
you
be
so
recognized?
choose- Okay.
The only thing is, with something such as that, now, I'm Catholic, and trust me, I don't want to convert anybody. I like what I am. I believe prayer is very personal, very spiritual, lifting your heart and mind to God. I would never impose it on anybody. I mean, I'm in the business where I have Jewish customers, I have Buddhists, and there's agnostics, you know what I mean? And I keep to myself. But when you open up prayer, you're opening up, I think, a little can of worms here, and it can be offensive to people, you know? And I can't force prayer upon anybody here. And that's why if you say a moment of silence, and the other thing is, if we bring a preacher, I mean, I know priests nowadays, number one, priests are so, we have a shortage of priests. Number two, they're so busy at night with sick calls at nursing home, taking communion, doing mass other place. I highly doubt I could get a priest to come in when it comes my turn to come in and say a prayer. Then I would be forced to say, a Catholic prayer, and I don't think that's right.
You're forced to do it.
Yeah. So I would only hope that we could think about, or table it temporarily now, just to talk about it for a moment of silence.
In my opinion, we've talked about it. It was discussed last year. We've talked about it numerous times this year. The city already has prayer. Every single year, both we open and close our Memorial Day service with prayer. Every year. We've done it for decades. So the motion has been made so we can take a vote on that. This is not meant to be offensive. Prayer is not offensive.
No, prayer is not, but in a way it is. What if I had the Buddhists here, or the Muslims? I mean, we have Muslims and Buddhists in our city.
For example, you said you didn't want to be offensive.
I don't want to be offensive.
Well, that's fine. I understand that. But, periodically up here time, and this may be a silly example, but we'll have people that will say, like, go Tribe, or go Browns, or go whatever. Well, There's a lot of people, several people I know in Brooklyn that are not Tribe or Browns fans. Is that offensive to them?
No,
What I'm
that's a
saying is-
sport.
what I'm saying-
Religion is different because religion is talking, that's your religion. You grew up with that. That is something that's in your heart, in your family, in your home. It is something that is that way.
Okay.
You know, so as residents, if you're out there listening, please, I would love to hear your opinions on this also. I mean, if you would find it offensive.
Mary, can we just add, to get along on this roll, can we just add the moment of silence? Would that be okay?
Explain it to me.
Add the moment of silence, because you want a moment of silence. I have no problem with that. Can we add it to what we have now? So if there isn't a prayer, we have something? Moment of silence? I mean, if you want to add
Well,
that in.
I would like to have the moment of silence.
That's fine, then I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
But what you're saying is to add that on top of what we're already doing.
Right.
Take the word or.
Right.
So in other words, you would choose to do either a moment of silence or do your prayer?
Unless somebody, when he sends letters out, somebody actually comes here for the prayer. Then we have both. I mean, I don't know anyone else to satisfy everybody here.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Well,
I know I'm trying to get along to make it look like that we have somewhat being unified up here, that we can put something together.
May I be recognized, just because I'm a little confused? Thank you. So is it, I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but your suggestion or your motion is in place of the opening prayer,
A moment of silence.
And Mr. Tansky, you're saying either or?
Either or. So if somebody does come in for prayer, then we could entertain that. If somebody doesn't come in for prayer, you have your...
But what if somebody comes in that's a Muslim and wants to say a prayer? Would we welcome that?
Any council member is free to invite anyone they wish to invite. That's what was discussed before. We've talked about it at several meetings. That is how it would work.
I know, but I think we're going to say Christian prayers, we're going to mention God. For me, I think it would be, this is not the forum for it. I really, I think like Cincinnati, the city of Cincinnati, you know, they do the moment of prayer. I've talked to numerous council people and
The city of Cleveland opens up their council meetings in prayer. The city of Lorraine opens their council meetings in prayer. Both houses of the federal and state legislature open up their meetings in prayer. This is not like this is unprecedented. In the day and age in which we live, I think it's important. That's why I've issued it. And we've already talked about this. So I'm not trying to argue with anybody. This has already been fleshed out. We've talked about it numerous times. The motion has been made to change it to moment of silence, so we can take a vote on that motion.
Okay.
May I just be recognized, just so people understand my position before we take the vote? And my position, as I stated before, is I believe that we're elected to represent everybody, no matter what their faith or whether they have a religion or not. Thank you.
I agree with you, Kathy.
And so do I.
I don't think anybody's in disagreement with that, but would you be fine if we added that in it? I mean, would you be fine with that? We can amend the motion to add that in it? Because there's going to be a lot of times, I'm going to tell you right now, there's nobody going to come. Every meeting.
I doubt that.
I don't.
I think there'll be
So
someone
then
here.
you'll have your say into that rule.
I just don't think this is the place for it, but,
You have a motion, you have a second.
Can we table it?
You have a motion already on the floor.
Second.
Okay. I'm going to take, this is to amend the ordinance. Kathy Pucci?
But can you read what the amendment is? Read it out.
This amendment is to replace prayer with a moment of silence. Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Belbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
No.
Barb Politzky?
No.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
No.
Andy Selhertz?
No.
It is not amended.
Is on second reading. Ordinance 2018-13, authorizing the mayor of the city of Brooklyn to enter an agreement with the director of transportation relating to slope repair along a portion of Ridge Road. Ordinance 2018-14, authorizing all actions necessary to accept Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council, NOPEC Energized Community Grants. Ordinance 2018-15, authorizing the mayor to enter into a service agreement renewal with Bailey Communications Incorporated to provide maintenance of network, software, support, and other related services for the city of Brooklyn. Ordinance 2018-16, An ordinance to vacate a portion of Montgomery Place south of Manoa Avenue. Ordinance 2018-17, authorizing the mayor to enter into a ground lease with Enerlogic Solar LLC for the development, design, installation, and operation of a solar-powered electric generation facility on a portion of land located at 9400 Memphis Avenue. And ordinance 2018-19, $1,420,000 in notes. On our new business for this evening is ordinance 2018-24. We're hoping to pass by emergency this evening, is authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Civil and Environmental Consultants, CEC, to provide consulting and other services for 2018 for the sanitary landfill in the amount not to exceed $43,800. Are there any comments or questions regarding that ordinance?
I have a question.
Yes.
Just to clarify, this is something that we've done every year since closing the landfill, correct? Okay.
Yes, and we'll have to continue for perpetuity.
That's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure it wasn't
How long?
It's 30 years.
30 years. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't anything with this, so, you know, the solar or putting anything on it, it's just regardless. Okay, perfect, thank you.
Introduced by all to suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
To adopt, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
Ordinance 2018-25 is also up for emergency adoption this evening, is amending Section 2 of Ordinance 2012-85 as previously amended, titled Establishing Petty Cash Funds for Various Departments in the City of Brooklyn. Any comments or questions?
Introduce by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
To adopt, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
Ordinance 2018-26, also up for emergency adoption this evening, is authorizing a community cost-sharing agreement with Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District for the illicit discharge corrections project. Any comments or questions?
Introduce by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
To adopt, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
Ordinance 2018-27 is on first reading this evening, authorizing the service, configuration, and installation of an email system upgrade to the City of Brooklyn's IT computer system from Bailey Communications in the amount of $37,587.50. And then the last two, ordinance 2018-28 and 29, as I mentioned earlier, we intend to go in executive session this evening and then come back out and take a vote on those after the executive session. Does the mayor, any directors, any other member of the council, anything they'd like to say before we go into executive session?
I move that we go into executive session for the purpose of discussing labor negotiations with our law director, the mayor, and our finance director.
Second.
And
To adjourn to executive session, Kathy Pucci?
yes.
Mary Bellbeer? Yes. Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
Authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the Municipal Foreman and Laborers Union Local 1099 for 2017. Do you have any? Go ahead.
Introduce by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
To adopt, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
Ordinance 2018-29, authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the Municipal Foreman and Laborers Union Local 1099 for 2018 to 2020.
Introduced by all to suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
To adopt, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to add?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
To adjourn, Kathy Pucci?
Yes.
Mary Bellbeer?
Yes.
Kevin Tansky?
Yes.
Barb Politzky?
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki?
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk?
Yes.
Andy Selhertz?
Yes.
Thank you.